Go. The Steyr AUG is a Cougar. I mean, Jane Seymour Wedding Crashers Cougar, or even better, Stifler's mom American Pie Cougar, right? It's working for them. They're attractive. And if you had the opportunity, you'd probably pull the trigger. Pun intended, of course. And so what I mean is they're classic. And they've got years under their belts, but even despite all that, you're still interested. They are still keeping up with latest trends, looking out, seeing what else the rest of the community is doing, what other younger girls are doing. They're putting on the clothes to stay in style, right? And they have nice lines, curves in all the right places. You see where I'm going here? That's the Steyr AUG. It's classic, of course, because it was introduced back in the 70s. If you didn't know that, it's probably because you're Gen Z and you've only ever learned about it from playing Call of Duty. But no, this thing goes back a while. So it's definitely a classic. However, it's still very reliable, still works, still very popular in the gun community. And Steyr's done a good job updating it, right? Getting it the new clothes to stay in style, losing that funky fixed power magnification optic that was on the top here, and instead put a new sleek pick rail for mounting your choice of optics and irons on there. They even added some more pick rail on the side there so you can add accessories. Aftermarket support, you could even go that far. We'll talk about what I did here later when it comes to aftermarket support. There's options to really bring this thing up to date. And of course, it has the lines, the Steyr AUG, it has the curves. It's probably the most recognizable of all bullpups out there, bullpup rifles. If you don't know what a bullpup is, I'll briefly get into that in a minute. However, give me 10 random people who don't know anything about guns, or maybe a little bit about guns, show them 10 different bullpups, ask them to name those guns, and I guarantee you 10 out of 10 of those folks will know this is probably an AUG or an AUG, or they'll at least recognize it, right? It's that popular. We've seen it, of course, all throughout pop culture. I mentioned earlier, Call of Duty. Yeah, it's in that. Both Call of Duties, of course, now. Not going to get nerdy on you. However, also in movies, most famously, Die Hard, Carl in the elevator, changing out barrels. Super cool scene. And it's everywhere, right? So it's popular. But I've said all that. And basically what I want to do here in this video is just talk about my experience with this particular AUG and show you my setup. I don't do reviews. Unfortunately, I don't have the time or money to shoot as much as I should to give you a really good video review. So go check out TFB TV. He's done great stuff with the AUG. Other folks do it. There's content out there. But for now, let's just talk about this, okay? My Steyr AUG. Let's start at the back. Of course, this has been safety checked. This is an empty magazine. Nothing there. And nothing in the chamber. But it looks nicer with the mag, so we're going to leave that empty magazine in there. I have the version that accepts proprietary Steyr AUG magazines. If you don't know, there are two versions of the AUG, A3M1. This version accepts their polymer translucent magazines, 30-round magazines, really high quality. Feeds rounds really smoothly, probably because there aren't metal reinforcements here on the lips. Now I've dropped mags on the range a handful of times, and I haven't had issues with rounds popping out. They seem to be holding up quite well, but that's something to think about if you like your steel reinforcements. But the other version, of course, is the NATO version, which accepts your regular P-mags, NATO mags, all that good stuff. Most folks probably would have opted for that, but you do lose some features which I'll discuss later. But anyway, starting at the back, like I said, is your, stock. You don't really get to swap out stocks on this because of just the way the design works, but I don't think you need to. It's all one piece, one polymer housing piece here. And this is the piece that swaps out for the NATO version. This piece, of course, accepts the mags I was talking about. And it gives you a nice rubberized thin plate here at the back for shouldering. It also houses all the guts. That's what a bullpup does. It moves all the action, your bolt, all those goodies, chamber, trigger, back. So on an AR-15, pull out a gun here real quick to show the difference. All the parts and stuff are up here, all right? You got your trigger components, your bolt, everything. On the bullpups, you can see all that stuff is moved back, right? Your rounds eject out the back here. And what that does is it allows the barrel to also move back, and it gives you an overall shorter package. Makes it really handy. There's pros and cons. I won't get too deep into that, but essentially that's what that is. I'm not an expert, so please accept my crude definition there. However, polymer, all polymer right here, stock housing piece. It also contains your, like I mentioned, ejection port on this side, your magazine release, which is ambidextrous because it is on the bottom. Now this is one of those pieces that I went aftermarket for. The one that comes on the standard AUG is very flush fitting to the stock or lower housing piece. I'm just gonna call it a housing piece because I don't have the correct word in my head right now. So anyway, magazine release right here is a button. You push on it from either side and it drops your mag. Not as efficient as the magazine button on an AR-15. Takes a little more training and a little more time to complete a reload, but you can get there. I'm working on it, still not too fast myself yet. But I went with a Corvus Defense custom magazine release. It brings out that magazine release a little bit further, give you a little zoom in there, than the stock one, which makes it a lot easier to hit the magazine with your thumb, magazine release with your thumb, instead of having to kind of sometimes dig into the housing here to depress the magazine button, magazine release button, which it's just a minor thing, but it does help, trust me. If you get your hands on one, you'll see. The next thing you'll find on the housing piece here is your bolt catch, bolt release. Going back to what I said earlier, when you go with the NATO version that accepts the AR-15 magazines, you lose this. I guess it just has something to do with the way the mags are assembled, the catch that these mags have on them. You can't have an AR-15 magazine and this piece. It's just not designed to work together. So you lose this, and if you need to drop your bolt on the other version, you have to do everything from the charging handle up here, charge it and release it all from up here. You can't just hit a button. I wanted that capability because I really like the speed of just inserting mag, coming up with my thumb, popping it right here, and sending the bolt home. It's a lot faster than coming up, hitting the charging handle, sending it home. So it's that was what made the decision for me. And also just Steyr mag AUGs are cool. They add to the classic look with the waffle pattern. So they're super nice. Next thing you'll find on your housing piece is your takedown pin. You have a takedown pin here at the rear that also acts as a swivel on whichever side you decide to add it. This is another piece that you can upgrade, make it fixed so it doesn't rotate. I haven't done that because this works fine enough for me. But you also have your takedown lever. This is captive. You push it through during the disassembly process to disassemble the rifle. We're not going to get into that. That would make this video way too long. It's probably already going to be a long one. And then moving even further up, you come to the pistol grip. Now you can't change this, right? Some things aren't going to change with this platform. They can't do everything differently. This is built into the unit, but it's still really comfortable. It has a very ergonomic grip to it. I like it. If you can see, I've added a little bit of grip tape because it is pretty smooth. This is Goon tape. Look them up. Pretty good stuff. High quality tape. And it just works. You have plenty of room in the trigger guard here for gloved hands. And it's a really good grip for being, what, 40, 50 years old now? It's getting up there for a gun. So you'll also find the safety on this housing unit here. Left is for fire. You'll have a red dot right there. White on the other side there is for safe. Cross-bolt safety. Not my favorite kind of safety, but it works. Some folks reported that it was rubbing their finger raw because it's kind of a rough texture. It's textured very nicely there, and it has some kind of sharp edges. But you could probably smooth those out if you were so inclined. I wouldn't do it, but if you're adventurous, give it a try. Let me know how it went. And it's a good safety, very positive. Obviously, you can hear that, it's loud. And you know when it's on or off. It doesn't really get stuck in one position or the other for me. The next thing you'll find down here is the trigger. Now, I'll show you again for safety sallies that this is unloaded. Nothing in the magazine, nothing in the chamber. I'll leave the magazine out for this, okay? So, trigger. It is not the best trigger. It's polymer. I didn't mention it before, but the entire trigger pack, which is back here, because of course, everything is back here like I mentioned, the entire trigger pack is polymer. So that kind of makes for a Glockish, squishy-ish, is that a word? It is now, kind of trigger. You have a lot of creep. Oh, that was actually kind of nice. Maybe I've broken it in a little bit. You have some creep at least, but then you have kind of a hard break. Nothing like an AR-15. Really, this is a totally different kind of trigger. Reset pops right back out. Very loud, very tactile. And then you have your trigger. Yeah, it seems mine smoothed out a little bit. I've got close to around 1,000 rounds now through this guy. I remember when I was first playing with it, it was definitely a lot heavier. Seemed to have had a little bit more mush, but it's improving. Polymer trigger, it's nothing to write home about, but it works. There are options out there. I believe you can buy aluminum or steel components for the trigger pack, or entirely new trigger packs that allegedly smooth out the pull, make it crisper and lighter, but I'm fine with what I have. Next up, you will find your, I guess, your guard, your trigger guard itself. You cannot change that. It's not like the new X95, or you can remove it. This is fixed. So that is pretty much it for the lower housing piece, rear housing piece. Next is the upper, if you want to call it that. Upper is here. It's what holds the gas operating system, and it's where your barrel feeds into. And it's also where you have your pick rail up top. So talking about that, you have several options for pick rail sizes. I think I have the long. It shoots all the way back to about here. And gives you plenty of room for optics, irons. I have some irons on there, although right now I'm not using them because the ACOG is on. And really nice pick rail. What can I say about a pick rail? It has T-marks on there. So you can see your where your optics or irons were last mounted, if you need to do that. And short stroke gas operating system, if you were curious. I am not a whiz when it comes to all that stuff, so I'm not going to get into details about how that differs from other systems, gas operating systems. But in there as well, you're going to have your charging handle. It's not the greatest charging handle. What I mean by that is it is kind of hard to lock into place. You're going to come over the top here, And I got it in one try that time. But if you have something up here, a maul or a PEC 15, whatever you got, your knuckles are going to bump up against it, and you're gonna have to come underneath to push the bolt catch charging handle here, pardon me, into place, to lock it into place. Release it, sends it home, and that's pretty much what a charging handle does. But that's another component that can be upgraded. You can, once again, refer to Corvus Defensio, I think it might be called. They're an Italian company. They have an upgradable charging handle that allows you to change the angle of the piece here so that you can lock it into place without bumping your knuckles along the Picatinny rail. Really nice piece. I have it, but I haven't installed it yet because I don't need to manipulate my charging handle that much. And like I just showed you, so far it's working okay for me. Next up is a QD spot right here. I don't recall if the older AUGs have had QD spots there. I kind of doubt they did. But you do get one on this rifle right there. Right now I'm running a Vickers blue force gear sling on there. And then also on the other side, you have that pick rail I mentioned earlier, where you can attach lights. Now this isn't the most ideal position for light. We'll talk about that here now. So Surefire 300, right, Mini. I have a tape switch because obviously, if you're a righty, it's kind of hard to activate that light when it just has a button, right? Because you have to come off the trigger. Pardon me, I'm knocking into the camera here. You have to come off the trigger to push the button unless you're going to reach all the way around with your left hand, and it just doesn't work. So I had to run the tape switch. But even here, it just wasn't really working because more often than not, I do find myself on the vertical grip here, and it would just be too awkward to come all the way up top to the rail here to push a button. So what I ended up having to do was run the sticky switch here from Surefire. It's not the most secure switch position or method of holding your switch to your rifle, but essentially it adds a sticky piece of, hook and loop there, and then another piece of hook and loop goes behind the switch, and voila, you have a switch slapped anywhere you want it on your rifle. For me, I found that right here made the most sense, even though it's still not ideal. I'm on the rifle. If I need my light, just reach thumb back here, tap it. It's momentary on only, just enough to get a quick dose of light, see what I need to see, and then go to work. So that's what I've done with the light switch. By the way, this is not reciprocating, so I don't have to worry about the wire getting caught up during shooting. However, if for whatever reason, I do need to manipulate this bolt release here, if I do have to lock it back, I don't want the wire to get in the way. So that's why I kind of mounted it a little further back, and I have the wire kind of tucked along the top here. So, long explanation for light, but that's kind of the way it is, unless you go with, again, aftermarket upgrades, which are available. You need to run the light on the other side. But those upgrades I just mentioned will give you extra rail along the front here. So you can move that light up here. You do lose the vertical grip, but you get the light up further so you can hit it with your off thumb while keeping your hand on fire control, which is cool. But I prefer the classic look of the AUG, so this is the way I'm keeping it. I think that covers the upper. Real quick, I'm going to mention the gas plug here. Now this is technically part of the barrel. This has a quick change system. So you can hit that button right there, twist it. Gotta lock this back, twist it, and boom. Your gas plug comes off with your barrel. It's really that easy to switch the barrel. Honestly, caveman can do it. However, gas plug comes with a 3-position gas plug, regular, adverse conditions for when you're dealing with a lot of dirt, mud, whatever, and off. That plug worked great. Did find that it was a little overgassed. The recoil was kind of sharp, I found. But if you're lucky, I was lucky, I was able to get a hold of the Suppressor gas plug from Steyr. They said it was coming back in stock. Picked it up as soon as I saw that. And this really smoothed things out for me. I've been running it on the suppress setting with the suppressor and without the suppressor, and it's been working flawlessly. Using just ball 55 grain 223, just ran great, no issues, and the recoil impulse was definitely tamed with it on the suppressor setting. But you also get a regular setting and a off setting, I believe. I don't think you have the adverse setting anymore when you get the suppressor plug. Moving along, you have your barrel, 16-inch barrel, cold hammer forged with a 1-9 twist. I got pretty good accuracy, I think, out of it. I'm no sharpshooter, I always like to say, but I'll show you a couple targets I had at a 50-yard range visit a few months ago. This was a qualifying target I shot to be able to shoot out on the long range. I didn't make it to the long range, but I was pretty happy with the 3 rounds I got on that diamond there at 50 yards. Pretty okay group using 55 grain American Eagle, full metal jacket. And then over here, there's several different groups in each diamond, so it's not all one group. Here, the ones with the marks are a 3-round group. Then I think I put 4 rounds then down here. Not bad. This is again at 50 yards. 3-round group there with the marks, and then an even tighter group there, 3 rounds without the marks. And then this was me getting zeroed. I was zeroing the ACOG, I think, and I just worked it in down there. A couple more groups. 3 rounds here with the hashes as a group. Another 3 here. Again, all of this is 55 grain American Eagle. The rifle is much more accurate than I am, basically is what we learned here. With better ammo, you can get better accuracy, and with a better shooter, you could get better accuracy, but obviously this rifle can do the job. Currently running Surefire RC2 full size 5.56 suppressor. Suppresses pretty nicely. I thought it was a pretty smooth shooter with that guy on there. But I do have a 5.56 mini in jail right now, and once that gets here, I can't wait, because it's gonna just make it even smaller of a package than it already is. It's gonna look great. Let me go ahead and pop the muzzle here. Pop the suppressor, I should say, off so that you can see the muzzle device. This is not the stock muzzle device. It came with, can't remember what it came with. I think it was a bird cage. No, the tulip. I think they call it the tulip muzzle brake. You would recognize it if you saw it. I'll put a picture up. But this is just a Surefire War Comp so that I can run the suppressor, and it works all right. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the features and how I have my rifle set up. Using, one thing I forgot to mention, using the standard mags, you don't get to run the cool high capacity magazines, so Steyr AUG offers you a 42 rounder you can use. And that works quite nicely in there. Haven't had any issues with the magazines. So that pretty much covers the features and the way I have it set up. Running an ACOG on the top there, by the way, if you didn't know what that was, Strategon ACOG with an RMR set on top. Talk about my ACOG setup real quick. Reason I chose to go ACOG. So the ACOG, if you don't know, has a really short eye relief, meaning you gotta be right on it to get a good sight picture, to see your optic, basically see your reticle. With an AR-15, you really gotta be nose to charging handle. You've probably heard that 1,000 times if you've seen reviews on ACOGs. You really gotta be up close on that rifle. Well, the way the cheek weld works on the AUG, because everything's kind of moved back, it really kind of works with the ACOG. I'll show you what I mean. So as I was saying about the ACOG on an AUG, I think they're just a better match together than ACOG and AR-15, mostly because of the positioning. Your positioning when you come up to pick up your optic, your reticle. On an AR-15, you gotta be nose to charging handle, like we always say, meaning you gotta be as far forward on that stock as you can be so that you can actually see the thing, you're not getting any scope shadow or whatever. Here on the AUG, you're pretty much there right where you would be with any other optic you're running, a red dot, irons, whatever it is, same position every time. You come up and you can see your reticle. Just because of where your eyes set when you come up on an AUG, running your ACOG further back here like this, it's a very comfortable positioning. You're not nose to charging handle, perfectly normal cheek weld here, and I pick up the reticle perfectly. If you want to come up to the red dot, easy to do the chin weld, and come back down to the ACOG, back up to red dot, easy to do. So this kind of brings me to the end. I don't really have much else to say besides it's run great, been really reliable. I think I said 1,000 rounds, more or less, through this guy by this point. 55, 62, and 75 grain FMJs with some Hornady black thrown in there. It ran it all great. This thing's becoming a favorite of mine, and it may actually take that #1 spot among my rifles when I get accustomed to this thing, start running it as fast as I can with my AR-15 with those reloads. Just figuring out those reloads is the biggest thing. It's very different, but it all comes with time. And once I get it all nailed down, I think I'm really gonna be digging this thing, maybe more than an AR-15. Who knows? We'll see. Until then, I got nothing else for you guys. Pick up an AUG if you've been wanting one. I don't regret it. I don't think you will either. Till the next video, guys, take care, stay safe. That's all I got for you.